Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 13.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life. As always, I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram.
But no, I'm your host, Kristin Ingram.
Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong show.
Too much recording this week?
Too much recording this week.
We are married small business owners. I'm a CPA.
And I am an IT analyst.
Ooh.
Sounds fancy. And today's producer is Ball, a.k.a. Smoochy Pants, who will hopefully not be disrupting this episode too much. As long as I can pet him and talk at the same time, we should be fine.
Yeah, because we've never recorded anything that has like kitty sounds in the background or...
No, we highly professional here in Ingram Professional Studios.
So that's kind of interesting with our topic this week, because this week we're going to be talking about, is your business really a hobby? And so we tried to find some stuff in the news this week that springboards off that topic. So what did you find this week?
Well, what I found was an article called How to Be Personally Agile. And now for those of you who do not know what agile is
that like yoga? Like putting your leg behind your head?
I would say that would also be agile. But when I talk about agile in a business sense, I'm talking about a form of project management or sort of business management, the way you run your business, that essentially tries to take the bureaucracy out of it and allows you to perform your task.
Yeah, because I know the business owners I talk to, they hate the administrative, bureaucratic side of their business.
Yeah. And the neat thing with Agile are there are a lot of tools for doing things sort of quickly, but still in an organized fashion. So where I work, we use what they call waterfall, which is the utter opposite. But I use a lot of Agile tools to actually do my actual work, and then I put together forms that they want for them.
So I think one thing that I learned from reading Essentialism was that we have to stop multitasking.
Yes.
Because when you are multitasking, your brain is going off in different directions, and it's really hard to focus on the main thing that you're working on. So I think if you kind of keep this all in perspective, all these tools that Jeff's going to talk about, think about working in a single task environment. Because multitasking is BS.
Yeah, and essentially the idea with Agile is you do the necessary work to stay organized, but just enough. And then essentially you, from there, spring out into getting things done, using your Pomodoro techniques or whatever you do to get your tasks done during the day.
Okay, so give us a little bit more information on working in an Agile environment.
Okay. So, and this person suggests you do it in your life and in your, which makes the article a bit more interesting because you can apply some of these things in your normal life. But the first thing is use a Kanban board. And what a Kanban board is, and it could be as simple as Post-it notes on a whiteboard. And then essentially you will have areas on the board for tasks for what you're currently working on. And basically yet to be started, in progress, completed, or you're holding. And you can actually, you can move the Post-it note under which category it's in. And it gives you two advantages this way. One, you can actually sit there and go, okay, you can break all your tasks down. If you can't really estimate how long you think a task can take, you can maybe look at the task to say, are there really a couple things in there that I could break down a little bit more? So you break it down into workable chunks, and let's say there's 10 tasks. When 3 get over to completed, you're 30% done. So you can, if someone asks you for a status update, a client or your boss, you can just look over at your board and go, there are 3 done, there are 7 left. I am 30% done. I have one in progress, one on hold, or however you want to do that.
Could you do that digitally as well?
Yeah, there's a plugin he talks about for Chrome called Trilio, which I'm going to have to check out this because I love Caven at work. I use this all the time. You'll see Post-it notes all over my area. It's a plugin for Chrome that will allow you essentially to set up an easy Caven board. And then what it'll allow you to do is that you can actually plug in time estimates for your Caven as well too. And for someone like me where I like to work in 30 or 60-minute blocks at a time, that's very useful for knowing, do I have it planned out how I'm going to do it well enough so I can get started and just really, with Pomodoro, I get so much more done on days where I use it effectively than when I don't use it.
Yeah, and I use, actually, Nosby has a lot of those features, and that's kind of how I lay out my plan for the day. I'll put my task list in Nosby. I'll assign times to everything.
I really love Nosby for that. And I'll use labels too, to where it's like I have a work and essentially my side work in different project labels. So when I'm at work, I can open up my Nosby and have just the projects at work, and I don't get distracted. And when I'm at home, I can reverse that around. And I actually have a personal one too for, honey, could you call them? Could you call this? Because I will forget, as I think you know.
And that's one thing I really like about Nosby is that you can, especially if you're working and you have a business and you have personal stuff, you can kind of focus in. I do that at school all the time where I'll turn off everything else and just focus on the stuff I need to get done while I'm at school.
And I'll create, what do they call them in Nosby? I think it's categories for your tasks. And so I'll have next task for work. I'll have next tasks for my stuff. I'll have, which I actually just kind of use the main one for that, the built-in next actions for that. And then I will have one for, personal. I usually start there if I get home or my brain's kind of fried. I try and take care of stuff that you ask me because that's important.
So you mentioned Pomodoro. What is that?
Which is also interesting too, because it's also the first productivity hack in this person's recommendation. And that's where you break up your work into periods of time, 30 minutes. And even if the task is longer, you could still use this technique. But essentially you focus exclusively. You shut down your email. You turn off your phone notifications. And you really just focus intensely on one task at a time. And then you get 5 minutes in between where you can sort of relax your brain. This is great for if you are like me and you get to work and you have tons of email. You can just sort of step up, stretch, use your phone, flip through a few emails. And then when your 5 minutes is up, get right back to the task at hand or the next task if you've completely one.
And, the thing that I really like about this is that a lot of small business owners, they will sit at their desk like all day and never get up to stretch and never take a break. And Pomodoro makes you do that. Yeah.
And also, and the thing you'll find too, when you start using it is you stretch out the period of time in which you are productive, I think, in my non-scientific experience. And it also, the great thing that it does is you get more work done because you're focused on the tasks that you need to get done. And even if you could have days where you sit at your desk for 8 hours, 9, 10 hours and get less work done than you get in 3 hours when you hyper focus. And I think the thing that concerns a lot of people is, what happens if I get an emergency phone call? Well, think about the course of your life and how many phone calls you really needed more than a 25-minute, you could not respond to in 25 minutes. And if you're expecting something like that, maybe you put in a number in your do not disturb to allow it to pass through, and you deal with it that way. But don't get upset. Most phone calls do not need to be responded to in 25 minutes. Unless, of course, you're a help desk, or you work with clients over the phone. You might need to do it for them, but try and do it intelligently where you're only allowing those numbers to come through. Or if you have a line that clients call, put that obviously through your do not disturb. But, your kids, your friends, your family, can usually wait for 25 minutes, blocks during the day while you're working, whether it's at home or in an office.
Well, and I found too, when I first did this, I thought my clients were going to freak out if I didn't answer the phone. Mm-hmm. And I think like they've really come to respect the fact that like if I'm working on something that I'm trying to power through it and I'll get back to them, like I said, like, at least, within either 25 minutes or an hour, depending on the block I'm working on. And I think that they understand that, hey, when she's working on my stuff, she's super focused on it and she's not going to be constantly distracted by other people when she's working on my stuff.
Yes.
So, at first, especially like if you're always available to your clients, it might be a little bit of a shift. But when you explain to them the purpose of doing it, I think a lot of them really respect it and they appreciate it.
Yeah. And completely. And I've never been yelled at for taking, 25 minutes to call even, some of my bosses who've been fierce back, usually if it's within 25 minutes is good enough time. If there's an emergency and that there's a chance for this phone call, that would be different. And the final thing in here that I really want to point out would be schedule your day. And this is a great way to use your first 30-minute block in your Pomodoro techniques. Sit there, find out what are 3 to 5 tasks, and it would depend on the length of the task, but try and find 3 or 5 tasks that you want to get done that day. Put those in your next tasks. Focus on getting those done in your Pomodoro blocks. If you get them all done, use another block, put in a few more tasks. That way you can punch stuff out. And as much as you do it for home, you can do it for work, you can do it for home as well too, and say, well, tonight's date night. That's what's scheduled. I know we do dinner between this time and that time, so I'll be there with my wife helping her, or getting other stuff done, depending on how your family works with it. But you can schedule that time out as well too.
Yeah, there's actually, I linked this in the Facebook group, but I'll put it in the notes to today's show. There was actually an article in Inc. magazine that is a 7-minute morning routine to help you kind of focus in on what you should do that day. And I've actually had a couple people reach out to me and thank me for posting this because they're using it and they find that just using 7 minutes to get themselves kind of organized and brainstorm and brain dump in the morning is really helping them to get more work done during the day.
And normally what I'll do in a Pomodoro block, if I get done early, I also do my batch emails in those times as well too, until I get caught up on them. So I'll sit there and usually, like you said, 7 minutes is usually all it should really take you to figure out what the next tasks are. If not, you need to be getting a little bit more ahead on what you need to get done. And if you get ahead, rock it out, punch out a few extra emails until you get those done, or, do a couple extra free posts to put up into your Edgar or Buffer.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I love ways to become more productive. That's really helpful. My piece this week is actually a white paper. And it was put together by Visual Logic. Visual Logic is a technology company. You might have a Visual Logic mouse or other piece of peripheral equipment on your desk that is Visual Logic. But this white paper is called Your Business Email Matters More Than You Think. I've recently gotten to a lot of discussions with people about email. Should I just, I'll just use a Gmail email and that's going to be fine.
Or I've already been using it and it's worked fine so far.
Or if I've had an AOL email address for 30 years.
I'm Dr. Real Estate 722. That's so cool because that's my birthday.
So, and actually not 30 years, I guess it would probably be like 25 at this point, maybe.
Whatever.
I don't know. Yeah. Whatever. They polled up business owners, individuals, and asked them what they thought of non-domain email addresses.
Let me make a guess. If you have a really cool email address, then they don't care, right?
They asked if a person's business card has a non-domain level email address, do you care? So a non-level domain email address would be Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, AOL, Outlook, anything like that. That's not your website, at yourwebsite.com. 70% said it looks unprofessional.
Wow.
That was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And I know we've both argued with people for years about this, but it's becoming more and more true, especially the younger your audience is, I think. Now, I haven't done all of the market demographics, but I would assume the younger your audience is, the more, especially to something like AOL, to a millennial, they might not even know what that is and go, what the heck is AOL?
Yeah. I want to read some of the comments from the first impressions.
Okay.
Because I think that they are unbelievable. So this is what people might think of your business if you are using a non-branded email, okay? I am leery of email addresses that are free account services such as Yahoo, Gmail, or Hotmail. It would make me suspect that the company could be a fly-by-night operation or possibly a scam.
Yeah.
I can't imagine taking anyone seriously if they present a professional card with an AOL email. If a company doesn't bother to get a domain name with email, I wonder what else they don't bother to do. I mean, guys, this is serious.
Yeah. Especially if you are in the online space at all, if you are trying to operate from the online as a coach, maybe specific avatars don't care. So part of this is to know your avatar. But the thing is, the numbers are overwhelming. Because
even, so they have a chart broken down where they ask people based off of different non-branded email addresses, what is most professional, what's totally unprofessional. Hotmail and AOL both ranked over 50% totally unprofessional. Mm-hmm. And even Gmail, which a lot of people think, is okay, because it's Google and it's okay, only less than 3% said that it was professional.
Or totally professional.
Totally professional.
Yeah.
About 20% said that it was better than average, but you still have, you have well over a third of people that say that it is either totally or somewhat unprofessional.
And that is by far number 2 after your domain.
Right. So, over 90% said that name at, yourcompany.com was the most professional. Most hosting comes with free email. This is not something that you have to pay extra for. Now, I'll tell you that a lot of times the spam filter that you get, the sorting that you get with that free email is not the greatest.
Every penny.
Yeah, it's worth every penny that you're paying for it. If you really like the features of Gmail, you can actually have Google host your email account, and it's about $5 a month.
It's about $5 a month. You'll get a huge Google Drive storage and access to Google Apps for work. But usually the main one thing people use is Google Drive, which if you're not familiar with is sort of like Dropbox.
Yeah. So you're getting a Google Drive, you're getting email, you're getting Google Calendar, you get access to all of the Google apps, like, their version of Word, their spreadsheet, Google Forms. It's just for $5 a month. And to be able to get something that you're familiar with, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I just take my domain email and I forward it to my Gmail account.
But you reply.
Right. But then you reply. And then you're like, well, I can set it, but then I forget to set it. And it comes from, it ends up coming from my Gmail account. Mm-hmm. This is a great way, too, to help create separation between your personal life and your business. Yeah. Because each segment of my business has its own email address. And so I can keep my CPA firm separate from what I'm doing online, from my personal stuff, and everything's compartmentalized.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice thing to have. But if you want to go basic, just, use what's free.
And that also avoids you too, when you go in to check your email for work, that you're not seeing that email from your family member that has the opposite political views that's always forwarding you stuff thinking they're going to convert you with obnoxious emails. And then you're disrupted for the next 30 minutes because you're so mad when you just read the headline of the email.
Yeah. So, I'm going to post this in the show notes for today's show so that you can take a look at it. But I was shocked because I didn't think that the percentage would be that high.
We both believed that it hurt you, but we had no idea the numbers. I mean, it is overwhelming. It really is.
And just the comments that, people had put in the survey, it could be really hurting your business. So if you have any questions about that, shoot us a comment, and we can kind of help direct you, on how to get that set up. Okay. So to expand on this week's topic, right? So we talked about being more productive. We talked about needing a professional email address. So let's dig in more to whether or not you are treating your business like a hobby.
Now, I want to point out first off, there's nothing wrong with having a hobby business on the side. Really, there's nothing wrong with it. But it's important, especially when you're in the area like I am, and you're working full-time at a job and you're trying to move to something else full-time. Those are two totally different monsters. And especially once you get to what that side business used to be becomes your main business, you really have to get focused and treat it like a business at that point. Because if you don't have that mentality, it could really hurt you.
Well, one thing when I'm talking to small business owners, I say, all right, so, what do you love about your small business? Like, oh, I love the flexibility. Okay. All right. Some of you might get angry with me today. Okay. I'm going to preface this now. When you go to Target and you expect Target to be open until 8 p.m., and Target just magically decides to close at 6 p.m., you're not going to be a happy camper. Because one of the reasons that you shop at Target is because it is reliable, right? They have the availability, the reliability. They are there during the hours that they say they are going to be there.
And I really want to say this because this has happened to me on more than one occasion in my life. People will complain about the big box stores, but then when you go to their small business, whoops, it's closed today. It's always open today. Why is it closed today? And the people decide to take the day off, no foreknotice. And I understand why some businesses will close down when they have vacation. But if it's a normal time and I have no heads up as a customer and I go there, it'll probably be my last visit.
Well, and the other thing too is, I see this with a lot of coaches. So, your avatar is somebody who wakes up early in the morning and, wants to get stuff done during the day so that they can spend time with their family at night. But you're a night owl and you don't schedule anything before 3:00 in the afternoon. Well, if that doesn't jive with your avatar, your avatar's not going to work with you.
Oh, most definitely. And that's a huge
or
one. Yeah.
Vice versa. Like, if you're a tax professional that works a lot with individuals during tax season, you have to work at night.
Yeah.
And you have to work weekends. And if you're not willing to do that, then you have to change, the type of services that you're providing.
Yeah.
Because people want to meet with you after work or they want to meet with you on the weekends.
Yes. Especially to go over their money.
Yes. If you want to have a business, right, and you want to make a go of it, you've got to stop thinking in this mentality that, oh, I have all of this flexibility. I can have lunch with my friends whenever I want. I can take care of my grandchildren whenever I want. I understand that emergencies come up, or things come up that somebody comes to town and you haven't seen them in 5 years. That's fine. But if you don't respect your business, how do you expect your customers to respect your business?
And let's say, for example, that you actually have a kind of business that you can be flexible, or most businesses have parts of it or times in which you can be flexible. The problem with that can be that you sit there and go, oh, wait, I can be flexible and take that 2-hour lunch with my friends today from 1 to 3 o'clock, and I'll just work a couple hours late tonight. And then you never do because, oh, well, your workday ends, your family comes home, or you go and eat dinner, and then you get distracted and never get back to cover up the time that you lost during the day. And I think that is the bigger risk of being flexible. Is there's nothing wrong with it, but one, your schedule has to be flexible in your entire life. And if it is, you have to make sure that when you move the time around, you actually still utilize that time and be smart. If you're starting at 7 o'clock and it's not the best time in the evening, like for me, it's not the best time in the evening to do really thoughtful, intelligent planning kind of work. If you're like me, don't do those kind of tasks at that time. That's when it's good to fill up your social media, or you go back and do other tasks that are take less brain processing for you.
One of the things that I found, and this is a personal thing for me, but I've talked to other small business owners that encounter the same thing, is that when you say, oh, I'm going to have lunch, and while I'm having lunch, I'm going to catch up on Grey's Anatomy. And then the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you never went back to work.
Curse you, streaming.
Curse you, streaming. I find that even on days where, by noon I accomplish my to-do list, if I don't have anything else in that to-do list, I'll just kind of like peter off and I'm going to play in the kitchen. Oh, I'm going to do some laundry. Oh, I'll do. And then
I'll be making cookies for me at that time. It's just a total waste.
I'm sorry. No, yeah, I could be making cookies. But it's like, if I don't have that structure to keep me going throughout the day, I'll just kind of wander off and find something to do and waste time for the rest of the day. And then I'm like, oh, crap, it's 5 o'clock.
That's why it's key. If you hit those next items quicker than you expect, which is hopefully, you sit there and take one of your Pomodoros and sit there and go, okay, I have 3 hours left. What does my business need? And hopefully if you should know the next task that you need, and then you can get to them.
And that's when, when you have days like that, that's when it's great to have like a prospect list or, an email list, or you can write a blog post, something to help you reach out to new customers and try to increase your sales. But to just say, well, I'm flexible now and I can go off and, I'm going to watch some TV for an hour, or I'm going to go, get my nails done for an hour, or I'm going to go wash my car for an hour.
Or play Fallout 4 for an hour while I eat lunch.
Yeah, nobody plays Fallout 4 for an hour. We all know that. But treat your business like a business. You wouldn't expect Target to close in the middle of the day to watch Grey's Anatomy. You wouldn't expect your favorite Italian restaurant to close, in the middle of the afternoon so that the owner can wash their car. Make sure that you are scheduling, you are there for your customers, you know what your next actions need to be, and that you are focused on your business. And hey, if you want it to be a hobby, that's great. I know a lot of people have hobby businesses on the side
and love it.
And that's what it is for them. But it's funny because the ones that are really successful are the ones that have scheduled time to work on their businesses multiple times a week to either create their product or sell their product.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are successful. And it's funny because a lot of times those really focused hobby business owners are actually the ones that transition to full-time really successfully. And something that's like, oh, it'll just be a hobby, it ends up becoming a business.
Because even if you can make your hobby business successful enough where you can transition, if you didn't give it the respect when you start doing it 8 or 9 hours a day, all of a sudden you still don't have the discipline to perform the actions you need to.
Yeah. And that's typically what I find is that a lot of the full-time, I'm putting this in air quotes, the full-time people that are running a business, the ones that fail are the ones that are putting a lot of flexibility into their schedules. They're putting their business on the back burner. They're not focused. They're not scheduled. And I'm not saying that you can have a 3/4 time business. You can have a half-time business. You can have a business that you work 10 hours a week. But if you're not focused, you're not scheduled, you don't know what you're doing next, you're not going to be successful no matter how much time you spend, whether you spend 10 hours a week or 80 hours a week.
That's where your cabin board comes in very useful.
Yes, that's where your cabin board comes in very useful. That's where your master schedule comes in very useful. You know, you've got to be fully transparent, we both work jobs. I have my CPA firm. I have my side projects. You're writing books. You have a podcast. We have the podcast together. You know, it's pretty hectic.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to keep all this together. And I will tell you that there are days, typically a Friday afternoon, where I go, I'm done for the week.
Yeah.
I'm done. Had enough. But I have that scheduled into my schedule. Friday afternoons are blocked off to pretty much do nothing.
Well, I think too, you know, one of the things you have to keep in mind as well is when you're building your schedule, there are 2 reasons why you have makeup time. One, nothing always goes the way you plan it. And sometimes it's going to take you a little bit longer to get done what you need. And other times you're going to feel burned out. And if you have this time, and that's where you can be flexible, that's where if you have the cabin board and you can move stuff around, do it. Because, you know, for me, Thursday, I record my other podcast. Usually Wednesday and Friday, I'm very unproductive after work.
But you know that about yourself. So you don't schedule things.
Yes.
Because what happens when we schedule stuff and then we don't get to it, then we start feeling defeated.
And behind.
Right. And you start to put yourself down and should I really be doing this? And, you know, you have to schedule downtime. I think that that's critically important. You can't go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know.
And if you can, please write a book so we can figure out how to do that, because we don't know how.
We'll put that in the stack of all the balancing books that we've read, which that's going to be an episode very soon.
You sound like me. You're amusing yourself, honey.
I am. I'm amusing myself. I can't help it. I've said it on the show before, and if you have not read Essentialism, you have to read this book. I'm going to link it in the show notes again, because this book has really changed my perspective on how I run my business. But I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And sometimes that means saying no on the personal side, and sometimes that means saying no on the business side. But if you don't have the structure in place, it is very difficult to be successful. Even when you look at, you know, these super successful people that, you know, now have like, you know, the lifestyle business, right? That, you know, they're only working 20 hours a week. They're working from beautiful remote locations.
And there's maybe 0.1% of internet people who actually do that.
But, you know, even the ones that are super successful now, they put in an incredible amount of time to get to that point. And then when they say, okay, yeah, you know, I only work 15 hours a week, those 15 hours are incredibly structured.
And part of it too is at that point, they have enough of a budget where they have VAs or actual staff that do all of the work they no longer want to do, and they can afford to do it because of all of the time and planning they put in getting to that point.
Right. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient.
So the average overnight success takes 8 to 10 years.
Yes. But it's kind of like, have you seen that? There's like this iceberg picture that circulates on Facebook where you see like, they show the water line, and above the water line, there's this like tiny little piece of iceberg, and it's like, this is the success, and underneath, there's millions of
work,
and millions of pounds of iceberg underneath the water.
It's a great way to visualize it, because people might not notice you for a long time. And then when you start getting noticed a lot, they're like, oh, wow, look, isn't that great? This person was nowhere last year, and now they're on the top of their game. Wow, that's an overnight success. And they missed that 8 to 10 years underwater.
Right, exactly. So, don't get discouraged. If you feel like you're not making traction in your business, try to put more structure into it. Try to formulate a plan that is going to give your business the characteristics that you love about the businesses you work with. Think about contractors that you like to work with. Why do you like to work with them? Will they call you back in a reasonable amount of time? They show up when they say they're going to. They are reliable. They treat you well. Is your business exhibiting those characteristics? And I'll tell you, it is very hard to build a business when you are working another job full time. One of the reasons that I went into teaching was because I have summers off, I have winter break off, and I only work a couple days a week. So that gives me, even though the schedule changes every semester, my clients have gotten used to that, thank God. I usually have 3 solid days a week where I can work full time on my business. And so it's funny because the flexibility of my other job allows me to be more rigid in my business.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. So, just think about this week. I want you to sit down and I want you to write down the characteristics of businesses that you love working with. And then ask yourself if your business has those same characteristics.
And if the thought of that completely frightens you, don't do that, but start changing the way you do business.
Hey, you know what? If you don't do something every day that frightens you, you're not doing it right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if it frightens you because you know that you're bad, just start changing.
Yep. But at least if you do the list, it will help you
get an idea of where you're
where you
short.
need to go, the things that you need to work on. So, I think that's an awesome task for you to do this week. And if you're in the Facebook group, I would love to have you post on what you thought about this.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not in the Facebook group, you can join by going to smallbizlife.com, clicking on the Facebook icon, and I will also put the link in the show notes for episode 13.
Excellent.
Okay. So this week's app of the week, since we're talking about, putting a little bit more accountability, rigidness into your schedule. And don't be afraid of rigidness, because too much flexibility is bad. Too much rigidness is bad. So my app of the week this week is Toggl. The reason that I love Toggl, first of all, I run a business that is primarily built on billable time.
I think this is vital if you don't do something like this and you are working a billable hour business, unless it's like an hour on the phone at a time with the client or something like that. You are being unfair to your clients, and that's not really cool.
Well, and even even for people that are doing consulting or coaching, there's always prep work before the call and after the call. And so using something like Toggl to figure out how long that's taking you to do could really be eye-opening for whether or not you're billing enough. Because if you're spending, 2 hours to prep and debrief from a 1-hour call, that means that you should, you've got to get your rates to the point where you're really charging for 3 hours.
Or I think the bigger thing, if you have that kind of a model, if you're sitting there and it takes you 10 times the time to bill for your second tier, service that's slightly higher value, you sit there and start looking at the numbers. And when you look at the cost and time, you're losing money compared to your email newsletter that people signed up and are paying for.
Right. So what Toggle is Toggle is a time tracking app that allows you to set up projects. Then you just click a button and you track your time. It's super easy to use. It's web-based. So it's kind of nice because, if you're, I'm a mobile person, I'm kind of all over the place. It allows you to just pick up where you left off on a different device.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be like, oh, I have to be at this computer.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it helps me stay focused because, when I'm working on something, I see that timer going and I say, listen, I know I'm going to bill this to a client. I'm not going to pop into Facebook. I'm not going to go check my email, because this is billable time to this client.
Or have the courtesy, if you're going to do that, push the button to pause it.
And that's the thing when you go to pause that button, you're like, no, I'm going to keep working. Right.
And my other suggestion as a backup here, egg timers.
Yes.
That way, if you're the kind of person who gets tempted as you reach into your browser to push that raw button, or you find yourself pushing Facebook to go into your news feed, get an egg timer. You can set it right next to your computer. I'm sure you can probably get ones to mount on the wall behind your computer in big numbers to be very imposing. Buy a tablet and have it only act as a timer. But, as a backup too, because sometimes software does have issues. So it's either as a backup in case for whatever reason you don't have to futz with the software while you're working, or if you're the kind of person that you just can't help yourself when you go into the browser or you start going away from the task to switch the timer, you just an egg timer.
Yes. No, that'll work. But the nice thing with Toggle though is that it will keep a history.
Yeah.
So of all the things,
and this is a huge advantage of using something like Toggle is you can sit there and go, how come I have 45 minutes every hour in Facebook? Yes.
Wow, last week I spent, 20 hours on administrative tasks and only 10 hours on, sales phone calls or actually working with clients.
Or billable time, yeah.
Right. So that's a great thing with it.
And then you wonder why you have no clients.
Yes, exactly. Because you're spending all your time on admin. Stop with the admin.
But I have 74 really wonderful Excel spreadsheets.
Yay. That's fun. This week's tip of the week is about fishing. And not like with a pole at a lake, but fishing for your information.
Yeah, and this one sort of came up where I got one of these phishing phone calls earlier this week. And this has not been the only one in recent memory. Maybe once a week I'm getting one of these phone calls now, and I get this phone call from someone claiming to be with Microsoft support for 365. First off, I happen to know enough about Microsoft where I know what the heck is that. And there's Office 365 and there's all this stuff, which I don't have an Office 365 subscription, so it can't be that. And if it was them, Microsoft is a big company. They do not care enough about me to call me. It's that simple. And trust me, I've been forced to call them in my other line of work. It's not pleasant. I don't want to talk to them on the phone anyway. But I definitely know they're just not going to call me to give me technical help.
Right. There was a news story a couple weeks ago. One of the banks in the area was actually being spoofed. The people were receiving text messages saying that they were from this bank and that there was a problem with their account, and to please, text back some information or to click on a link that was within the text.
That's a common one.
So, that's going on a lot right now. The phone calls. I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying they're getting phone calls from the IRS, where they've never had, they haven't received letters from the IRS or anything.
There are also people who get letters or phone calls from the FBI.
Yep. Or, this is the county jail and your grandson, son, whatever is in jail, and you need to give us money to get them out. Especially around the holidays when people are super stressed out.
Yeah.
This is when scammers really turn up the heat because they know you're stressed out. They know that you've got a lot going on. And a lot of us put our guard down.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, when they come from a company that or, it happens to be your bank that is getting spoofed, especially, I think, or it's from some big, giant government entity like the FBI or Homeland Security or, the IRS. I guarantee you if someone called and said, I'm the IRS, I would tense up immediately. But once again, remember, they're going to send you a big, scary letter. FBI will show up to your door and hopefully knock.
Hopefully. But, it's important to know, how a company or if a company will make a first point of contact with you. Never click on links in an email that, personally, if I get an email from my bank, I will close that email and just go to the bank's website and log in. And it's just kind of something that, being married to somebody in IT, that I've gotten used to doing. That even if I think it's legitimate, I do not click on the link.
Yes. Don't use the phone number in the email given to you. Go to their website and look up the number there and call them. It's probably junk.
Yeah, because I've seen some, I've got clients that will forward me emails that they got from, from the IRS, which the IRS will never email you. And they look really legitimate.
Or they can. Some are bad,
some
of them,
are very good. Some of them look really good. Don't call the phone number in the email. Don't respond to the email. Don't click on any links in the email. Don't
click on the links in the phone message. Don't respond to via text message. They're never going to ask you for any time, especially they say respond and let us know your username and password. Those are the more obvious ones, but some can be even more tricky. Just deriving certain basic information from you, like your birth date, might be enough to allow them to commit identity theft on you. So be very careful. They will not initiate abusive calls to you over the phone. No one does that.
Yeah, the IRS will never call you and say, you owe us a whole bunch of money. And if you don't, give us your credit card information right now, we're going to seize all your assets and call your employer. And, they will not do that. The IRS always initiates first contact via mail.
And if your bank or someone you have credit with is doing that, it will not start there. Once it goes into collections, it will be there, but this process will be going on for months before you get to that point.
Right. So, just be really vigilant. I understand it's the holidays and we're all kind of tired and, but don't let your guard down.
And whether or not it's even legitimate, let's say like it is a collections phone call, you don't want to settle it over the phone anyway. You'll always want something in writing to back up what you're doing before you make actions. Even if it's not something like you're behind on your credit, maybe you are dealing with the IRS. You want it in writing that you've solved the problem.
Correct. So be vigilant. Don't click on links. Don't use the phone numbers in the email or in the text message. Go look it up on the website. And just be careful.
Because of that money you can save, you can use as your Christmas budget. And you can actually go to smallbizlife.com/Amazon and actually spend your Christmas budget, help the show out, and feel good about yourself because you helped make the show a little more successful and you helped save money and you're done the Christmas shopping early.
Wow. Look at that plug.
Wow.
You did such a good job.
I sort of try to throw the hook in there. Oh, wait, it's a fishing reference. Sorry.
Awesome. So, yeah, if you're doing your shopping at Amazon, if you do it through Small Biz Life /Amazon, you help out the show a little bit. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us keep the lights on and, the hosting going and all that stuff. So we appreciate it.
If you ever have any specific questions, once again, the Facebook group, and just ask away. Either us or one of our wonderful members will help you answer the questions.
Love the Facebook group.
Love it.
So awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this week. We're excited to have you with us, and we hope that you will come back next week for another exciting episode of Small Biz Life.
As your business turns.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.